My wife said modern women don't cook or clean. Hire a maid or starve. I hired a young Brazilian housekeeper who cooked amazing meals. Her friends freaked out when she accidentally answered the door in lingerie my wife left out. I'll be honest. I married my wife because I thought she was my partner, not a brand ambassador for TikTok hot takes. But the last year, it slowly turned into a podcast argument I never consented to being part of. My wife, 31F, recently got obsessed with this modern women don't perform domestic labor rhetoric. And listen, I agree. No one should be a maid for their partner. But there's a difference between dividing responsibilities and refusing to lift a single finger while mocking me for doing chores. It started small. I, 34M, would come home from work and ask if she wanted to cook together, something we always used to do. She'd roll her eyes and say, "Modern women don't cook. You want a meal? DoorDash exists." Then the laundry. "Modern women don't clean. Hire a maid or learn to love mess." She said it with this smug girl boss mic drop tone that made me want to walk directly into traffic. But the breaking point came when she hosted a brunch for her friends at our house, which she refused to clean for. I spent 4 hours the night before scrubbing everything while she sat on the couch scrolling reels about bare minimum husbands. The next morning, I heard her brag to her friends. "I trained him well. He actually enjoys doing chores now. Modern women don't settle." I froze in the doorway. Trained? Like I was a dog that finally learned to sit? That night, I told her point blank that her attitude was disrespectful. Her response: "If you don't like doing chores, hire help. Otherwise, starve. Modern women aren't maids." She said this while literally tossing her lingerie onto the living room floor and walking away. So fine. If she didn't want to cook or clean, I'd hire help. And I did. A part-time housekeeper named Laura, a 26-year-old Brazilian culinary student who was recommended by one of my coworkers. Before anyone jumps to conclusions, she was extremely professional, polite, and genuinely talented in the kitchen. Her food tasted like something you'd get at a luxury resort. Within a week, the house was spotless and I was eating better than I ever had in my life. My wife didn't care at first. She was thrilled that she didn't have to do chores. But then she started getting territorial. She'd complain about how Laura folded towels weird, or how the seasoning smells too foreign. And then one night, tell her to wear a uniform, something modest. "I don't want her looking comfortable around you." We argued. A lot. But it wasn't until the day her friends came over again that everything detonated. I wasn't home. My wife and her friends were having another brunch. They heard a knock on the door. One of her friends went to open it. What she saw? Not something my wife ever intended. Because my wife forgot she had done laundry earlier. She'd left several pieces of lingerie to air dry on a rack in the laundry room. Laura thought they were hers, since my wife mixes everything, and assumed they were part of the work clothing my wife insisted she wear. So when she answered the door, she was wearing it. Not in a sexual way. She thought it was some kind of cute uniform my wife set out. My wife's friends stood there slack-jawed. My wife screamed. Laura panicked. And I got 10 missed calls in a row. That moment, that's where part one ends. Because what came after? Accusations, social media drama, family intervention, and my wife doing something I never expected. The knock had barely faded when I walked in. I didn't plan it. I'd left work early to surprise my wife with tickets for a weekend getaway. Instead, I walked straight into pandemonium. My wife was standing in the kitchen, face red, hands flying, yelling something that sounded like a mix of Italian and fury. Her friends were frozen, sipping mimosas like deer in headlights. And Laura was clutching a tea towel, wide-eyed, trying to apologize. I thought this was the outfit you wanted me to wear," Laura stammered in broken English. My wife's voice hit a pitch I hadn't heard since a college choir recital. "Outfit? That's my lingerie. How, what are you doing?" "I didn't know," Laura said, still holding the towel like a shield. "I thought it was for work." "For work?" My wife shrieked. "This is my bedroom drawer. Who told you this was okay?" Her friends were whispering. "Oh my God, is she married to him?" I realized my life was now a viral meme waiting to happen. Live in our kitchen. I took a deep breath and stepped in. "Okay, everyone, calm down. It's a misunderstanding." But calm didn't work. My wife waved her hands like a conductor gone mad. "No, you calm down. Look at her. Wearing my lingerie, serving brunch, like this is fine." "I'm sorry," Laura repeated, nearly bowing. I will change. I clean, cook, no problem. Change. Change. You're in My wife paused, realized I was standing there, and her voice dropped. Oh, you're back early? Yeah. I figured I gestured at the chaos. I figured I'd come early. Looks like you're having a great brunch. Her friends were now staring at me like I was either the villain or the hero, impossible to tell which. Then my wife's tone shifted. Slowly, insidiously. You like this, don't you? Watching someone else serve you, wearing this. I shook my head. No, she's doing her job. She's cleaning, cooking, and helping run the house because you asked me to hire help. That's it. For a second, she went silent. I saw her processing. I can't argue this. He's right. But she couldn't let it go. Not yet. You think this is funny? I, I, I cut her off. I think it's hilarious that you spent 10 minutes arranging a narrative about someone else being inappropriate when the problem started because you refused to cook or clean. I hired help. That's what you wanted, right? Silence. And then, the worst part, her friends started laughing. Not subtle snickers. Full-on, unstoppable laughter. Wait, you hired her to cook and clean? One of them asked. Yeah, I said. And apparently, she wears lingerie sometimes if she thinks it's part of the uniform. Totally innocent. Oh my God, another whispered. She's hot. And she cooks? And you're married too. Wow. I realized my life had officially been weaponized by Lara's accidental wardrobe choice. My wife stormed out to the bedroom, slammed the door, and texted her best friend. I can't believe he hired her. I can't believe it. This is so embarrassing. Meanwhile, Laura quietly changed into a proper apron and carried the quiche out with no drama, smiling apologetically at everyone. And that's when the emails, texts, and social media DMs started. Her friends DM'd me to ask if she was available for catering. One posted a picture of the kitchen table, no faces, with the caption, "Brunch served by a goddess." Can I hire her full-time? My wife tried to intercept by posting a story. Fun brunch with friends. All mutual, nothing scandalous. It was like watching a slow-motion viral catastrophe unfold in my own home. After everyone left, my wife sat on the couch, arms crossed, sulking like a toddler who lost their favorite toy. You humiliated me, she said. I think you humiliated yourself, I replied. I literally did exactly what you said. Hire a maid. She cooked. She cleaned. What's the problem? She's too young. Too pretty. Too everything. I realized at that moment that it wasn't about chores or lingerie or even brunch. It was control. She had built a world where she dictated who I could hire, who could enter my life, and what I was allowed to enjoy. Laura simply existed outside that framework. Here's the thing, I said calmly. I hired her. You said modern women don't cook or clean. I agreed. I'm not going to punish someone for following your instructions. If you have a problem with her, that's on you. Her jaw dropped. You? No. She's a housekeeper. She cooks. She cleans. And she's not a threat. She's doing her job. I don't care if she wears an apron, lingerie, or a full tuxedo. It doesn't change that she's helping the house function like you said you wanted. Silence. Then, slowly, anger. You're enjoying this too much. No, I said. I'm enjoying the fact that the house is clean and brunch tastes good. That's all. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She finally went to the bedroom, slammed the door, and didn't come out for hours. Update 1. The morning after the brunch fiasco, my phone was blowing up. Not from my wife. She was sulking somewhere in the bedroom, but from her friends. Messages, texts, DMs, all asking the same thing in slightly different ways. Is she really your housekeeper? Wait, she cooks and cleans? Like professionally. How long has she been working for you? Is she available for catering? I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to see how far the rumor mill would spin before I intervened. But then one message made me pause. A video her friend had sent. A shaky clip of Laura carrying a tray of croissants, laughing, completely unaware that it was being recorded. My wife's friends were tagging each other, whispering, laughing, clearly enjoying the chaos she had inadvertently created. It didn't take long for the texts to make their way back to my wife. She stormed out of the bedroom, furious, trying to intercept her friends, but it was too late. The videos were already circulating among the social circle she considered untouchable. Her carefully curated image of the brunch, of herself as the perfect hostess who just sits back and lets her husband do the chores, was unraveling. I stayed calm. I wasn't embarrassed. I didn't correct anyone's assumptions. I just let it happen. Laura, as usual, was professional. No commentary, no dramatics, just quietly doing her job while chaos bloomed around her. My wife tried to confront me later that evening. "You're enjoying this way too much," she hissed. "No," I said. "I'm enjoying that the house is clean, the food is good, and you're no longer pretending chores magically disappear. That's it." She stormed off again, muttering about boundaries, dignity, and how humiliating this all was. But I knew the truth. I had followed her own logic. She told me modern women don't cook or clean, so I hired someone who actually could. That someone happened to be competent, beautiful, and entirely oblivious to her social narrative. Over the next few days, the gossip didn't stop. Her friends couldn't stop talking about the housekeeper who cooked gourmet meals and kept the place spotless. My wife tried to spin it as mutual fun and all innocent, but her own social web had already witnessed the reality. Meanwhile, Laura continued to work, quietly, efficiently, and without ever acknowledging the storm she'd accidentally triggered. And I realized something important. The chaos wasn't about her or the lingerie. It was about my wife losing control of a story she had invented. And in that moment, I knew that things would never go back to the way they were before. Final update. Weeks passed, and the storm slowly settled, but the tension didn't. My wife retreated into her usual routines, avoiding eye contact whenever Laura or I were in the same room. She tried to spin the story on social media, framing it as harmless fun, mutual jokes, or her modern approach to managing a household. Her friends laughed along, partly out of loyalty, partly because the spectacle had been so entertaining. But I knew the real truth, and I didn't need anyone else to see it. Laura continued her work quietly. She cooked, cleaned, and kept the house running with the same professionalism that had triggered the chaos in the first place. She never commented on the lingerie incident, never tried to embarrass anyone. She was competent, discreet, and completely focused on her job, exactly what I had wanted from the beginning. As for my wife, the humiliation had consequences she didn't anticipate. She realized that her attempts to control the narrative had failed spectacularly. The friends she tried to impress were now talking about Laura more than her. Her social authority had eroded subtly but irreversibly, and I noticed how it affected her in daily interactions. She became quieter, less confident, less performative. For me, the situation taught a lot about boundaries, expectations, and honesty. I had tried to follow her rules, even when they didn't make sense, and it had worked, but only because I remained calm, rational, and unapologetically practical. I didn't retaliate, I didn't gloat, and I didn't need to explain anything. I simply documented, acted responsibly, and let reality speak for itself. There were no fireworks, no dramatic confrontations after the fact, just the slow, quiet unraveling of assumptions and false hierarchies. The house was clean, the meals were amazing, and my wife learned, painfully, silently, that attempting to manipulate others' perception of reality doesn't always succeed. Over time, our dynamic shifted. We still lived in the same house, but the tension eased. My respect for Laura grew, not just as a housekeeper, but as someone who handled an absurd situation with grace and professionalism. My relationship with my wife changed. She wasn't the same overbearing voice of authority she had been. I wasn't angry anymore. I just understood the cost of trying to control others and the limits of influence. In the end, the lesson was quiet, almost imperceptible. Reality has a way of asserting itself, and the people who rely on manufactured narratives are the ones who pay the price. I didn't need to announce the outcome, post screenshots, or explain what had happened. The truth existed in the house, in the meals, in the calm competence of the person I had hired to do the work my wife refused. And that was enough.